Okay, so I'm just here to give you kind of a bit of an update on what we're doing in the XFP team, what we've done in the XFP team recently, so I'll just crack on and go for it. So probably the biggest feature that we've released this year has been Conditional Logic. It's the replacement for PHP calculations that you may be familiar with. It allows you to create if-else style conditions and return certain values. It's really quite a powerful tool. We've seen some fantastic use cases so far, customers using it. One area that people are using it quite a bit is to do really complex branching. So where you want to branch on multiple different questions, you might want to pull a value in from CXM or from Bartek or from a different system. You can pull all of them together, you can make your decision, and then you can branch your form based on the outcome of the logic. So it's a new addition to the logic features in XFP, yeah, it's quite powerful to use. One of the great things about it is that we've added something that we call definitions. Definitions allow you to create static values or manipulate dates. So it could be that on your service, you only want to allow bins to be reported as missed after 1 p.m. We can set up a definition to say today at 1 p.m. and then in our conditional logic, we can check the current time, date and time to see if it's before 1 p.m. on that day and branch the user accordingly. All without having to do any code. You can set all that up via the control center. So conditional logic and definitions kind of go hand in hand. I'm sure there's many different use cases for them that will come up. We've also done some stuff with event booking. It was our phase 2 of event booking, and we've added in the ability to set up certain time periods. So previously you could choose kind of an all-day booking or a specific slot booking. We can now set up kind of the periods in which those sort of bookings can take place. So you can have like a AM booking or an all-day booking or a PM booking, choose a certain days and working hours within those days. So the flexibility has been added to event bookings. We've also introduced event booking cutoff time. So if you wanted to make a booking for, say, tomorrow, we can set the cutoff time to be 5 p.m. The day before, so nobody can book onto a service for the following day without giving your service team a chance to organise it all. We've also introduced the ability to kind of go back and change bookings. So the way that we kind of envision this working is that we've got new variables for the event booking. We can send them into CXM, so we can store them within CXM, so that can be the booking date and time, the ID of the booking. And if your customer wants to go and change their booking or cancel their booking, we can send a redirection from CXM to a form, passing in the event booking ID. That will then populate the event booking question again with their selected booking time pre-selected, and they can move their booking or they can cancel their booking, and then that updates Outlook and updates the system and updates CXM. So we can really start building out these systems that allow customers to self-manage. So it's just taking our event booking stuff a little bit further than it was before. Also got SLA report on it, so we can see when what the first date was offered to a customer. So if I am a service manager, I'd like to know sort of, am I meeting my SLAs? So I'm supposed to offer a date within 2 weeks for pest control. I suspect it's a lot less than 2 weeks for pest control, but as an example, I need to make sure that the service is able to offer that. And using the SLA report, I can see what the earliest dates that were offered to the system were. We've also released integration with the Department for Transport's Blue Badge service. So this is kind of in conjunction with CXM. We are kind of the first phase of this ongoing piece of work. And what we've introduced is an integrate component that allows you to look up application from the Blue Badge service That's based on name and a postcode. So we're really advising that it's only really customer service staff who would do this. You wouldn't use this on a front-end form because it's just a name and a postcode to get the application. There's no other sort of authentication method or way to identify yourself on that. So it should really only be your customer service staff who would use this. But from that list of applications, we can then go and fetch all the application data from the Blue Badge service and push that into CXM. So yeah, that's a new integration. We worked quite considerably on some performance improvements over the last few months, and a bit further back than that. We've done kind of a full analysis of the code base. We've kind of identified areas that were making calls to back office systems and other systems that we didn't need to, or that we could reduce the number of calls there. And we, hopefully, if you're on some of the later patches, you should hopefully see some performance improvements. It's not a kind of, oh, we're done with that now. We're constantly looking at it, constantly working on it, constantly refining it. But I think there has been a noticeable improvement. Also, we removed the requirement to set a default radio button option, which was probably my number one requested feature, or so-called feature. It used to require you to set a default option, and now you don't have to. So hopefully there's a few smiles in the room for that. So in addition to kind of those sort of core big features, we've introduced a load of new logics, predefined logics, which will help you build your services. So these are kind of generic logics that will kind of just assist you in building their forms. Quite often we have to work with dates, and we have to calculate dates in the future or in the past. Sometimes we need to choose between weekdays and just kind of any day of the week. So we've got date plus minus days logic in there now, so we can seed the start date for it, and we can add or subtract dates to it, and we can choose whether or not to include the weekend in our calculation. So hopefully there'll be use from that. Other times you may just need to get a part of the date. So what's the year, what's the month, what's the day, what was the day of the week. Generally this would be kind of to be passed through to CXM, so you can run your rules or based on that. So if it's week of the year is divided by 2 is an even number, then trigger a rule for that, and you can kind of separate that. So yeah, you can get date values. We can compare 2 values. So this actually came before the conditional logic, but it kind of works on a similar way, but a lot simpler. Comparing 2 values with less than, greater than, equal to, contains and doesn't contain, and returns true or false, and you can use that to branch on. Substrings. So take a bit of a string and use that. Where's this really useful? If you've got kind of drop-down list or some options, and you kind of want to use the option to drive your branching, but you also need the option to pass into the back office system, you can format the value of that option to be kind of your branching trigger, and then the value, and use substring to separate that value out so that you can pass each one to the relevant area. So you can capture the first half of the string, or the second half, or the back half of the string. Check to see if the property is in the LLPG data. So some of you may import your LLPG data into the CMS. We've got logics which will basically check to see the UPRN exists in that. So then that can be used to define your services. So is it in area or outside of an area? So we just pass in the UPRN to that, and that will give us a positive or a negative result on that. Likewise, if we want to run our services by ward, we can get the ward from the CMS data, LLPG data, and that allows us to build our forms out dictating the relevant service for the ward. And those of you who use single point, we've also added the ability to query single point data, so we can get the kind of street reference numbers, and then all the kind of various address bits. So helps with your reporting, or depending on what type of forms you're building, but if you need to know the street of a property, you can use it for that. And SLA Date, I think a few customers may have already had this as a custom logic installed. We've now put it back into core, so everybody gets advantage of it. And the SLA Date, similar to the date plus or minus value, except for it takes into account bank holidays. So if you're working out an SLA date, you don't want to kind of count the August bank holiday or Christmas or Boxing Day. The SLA date will discount those dates, and it uses the GovUK data source as for the bank holidays. They provide a JSON list of dates, and we load that in every night and update it from that. So you can pass that into CXM, and that can give you your SLA date in CXM to then drive your rules, and send you notifications to your staff to say this case is coming up close to its SLA date. You should really look at it. So yeah, another calculation point. So then finally, just want to finish on the roadmap, what we're working on at the moment. We are doing some improvements to the PDF generation. We're kind of reworking the way that works. Hopefully you wouldn't see any sort of noticeable functionality difference for that in its first iteration, but we're moving it to an internal web service so that we can run the servers better from that. We've got the Symfony and the jQuery updates, likewise with the CMS, so that's kind of in partnership with the CMS. And we're just kicking off the Epic for data export, which is a rewrite of data export, bringing in data, being able to export data from the new form builder and the legacy form builder. It will support both versions. You'll be able to use webhooks to trigger the export and to download the content, so any techies in the room can kind of automate the system for that. Moving on to sort of after that, we want to make some improvements to our first capital cash flow direct debits integration. The current way of doing it requires you to go off to First Capital, sign up for the direct debit at that point, and then click a finish button to return to Jadu. Not every user will click the finish button, and it becomes a bit of a problem. So we're rewriting it so that all the sign up process is done on the Jadu side, and we don't have that problem. And then longer term, the repeatable question variable problem, being able to capture all that information, pass that into external systems, and support for XFP in galaxies as the longer term. So thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Right, thank you very much, Andy Perk. And agree.
Question. Question.
David.
It wasn't actually a question, it
Oh,
was more
okay.
just an observation, just to say that a lot of those things that you went through there, the new logic and everything, are really good. We've used a lot of them, and yeah, brilliant.
Oh, great.
Really good.
Someone actually said, well done, Andy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.